Good morning. We are going live now from the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery. I'm Valerie Shepard, founder and CEO of the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery, and the facilitator of the Bliss Collective here on Facebook. Very excited to be here. I'm noticing little glitchy things here on my dashboard telling me about my stream quality or something. I think we're going to I bet you can't hear me. Okay, we're gonna end and start this again. Okay, there we go. You should be able to hear me now. I unplugged my headset. I was using a headset yesterday because I was outside. And so now we've unplugged the headset and we should be on the right audio. Hey, how about that? Anyway, I'll start all over again. Good morning. I'm Valerie Shepard, founder and CEO of the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery and the facilitator of the Bliss Collective, coming to you live for this week's segment of my Hump Day Happy Chat. Yay, where we talk about the things that are important to do and to be and to not do and to not be to live a high vibe life. A high vibe life means one where we're in flow. It means one where life is, creating a life that you love to live. I say where things seem to happen effortlessly, where there's effortless effort delivers a phenomenal result. Like one of my fervent prayers is, teach me how to get more done with less involvement, less effort. I've learned about myself. I love the finished result. I don't always love the journey there. So whatever I can do, leveraging the greater power of the integrated self, that's part of the topic for today, wholeness, the integrated self, that integration of spiritual being and human expression, right? A human suit that we're wandering around the third dimension called Earth. We've got to be in this human suit in order to bring our beautiful out of this world, greater than this world, more than, not of this world, just in this world, soul being self into expression. Yabba dabba do. Are you feeling me? Good morning, Bliss Collective. Good morning out there. I'm Valerie Shepard, and I'm excited to be here with you with a great topic for today. And as I was thinking about this, what we would talk about today, it occurred to me when I look at the statements in our manifesto, when I look at our trajectory, like we are a community, creating a movement for more peace, love, joy, and freedom on the planet. That's a lot, huh? Can you feel the energy of that? So when I say freedom, I'm not talking about political freedom. I'm not talking about geopolitical peace. I'm not talking about concepts that are rooted in sort of the human experiment. I am talking about concepts that are deeper and bigger than that. So freedom is about freedom from things that would hold you back. And most of those things, although they don't always look like it, are inside you. That's what I discovered in my life. I thought there were so many things against me. And there were things against me. And even bigger than the things that seemed like the apparent and true obstacles outside of me, there were some pretty big obstacles inside me too. And that's not good, bad, right, wrong. It just is. We don't have to make a statement about the fittingness of it. And we don't have to have a suffering Olympics so that I get to claim my suffering is worse than someone else's. That's not the point. That misses the point, in fact. We could go down that rabbit hole and talk about all that stuff and get absolutely nowhere. In fact, we could actually pull ourselves back. So this concept of peace is inner peace. The concept of freedom is inner freedom. Freedom from the things, the ways that I inhibit my full expression of the divine being that I am, of the divinity that is my true, deepest nature. My deepest intent is to express my divinity. That's true for all of us. We might not be consciously aware of it. It might not be rolling around this massive brain of ours. But I guarantee you it's in this magnificent thing, this magnificent guidance system, this magnificent connecting power called the heart. Yes, yes, yes. So welcome to this morning's Hump Day Happy Chat. I'm grateful that you're here with me. If you join me live, yay, 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 hallelujah. If not, and you watch the replay, please put #replay. Put your comments in the comment box. I love to respond to comments. It helps me even know what would be great for the next topic. And of course, if you'd love to share, #share, invite others to join us here in the Bliss Collective, become a part of this movement. How can we serve them to create the conditions inside of them, high vibe living conditions inside of them, such that their outer world turns into a life that they absolutely love to live. Bring more, play more, have more fun. So a couple of quick announcements. I've got a course coming up that I'm going to be launching. I've got a master class coming up. We're going to be launching that on August 12th. I hope you'll join. We're also going to do a live group session in the next couple of weeks. I've got a little bit of stuff in the middle that I can't move out of my calendar, so it'll probably be right after the master class, the second week in August, that we'll get together as a Bliss Collective and talk about the future self meditation. I asked a question if people were interested in that, and we'll do that as well that second or third week in August. How do you connect with your future self? How do you allow your future self to let you know whether you're on track or not? What avenue is right for you? How do you bring that higher self into your present day awareness and leverage it for your own growth, your own development? Looks like things are blipping again on Facebook. That was funny. That was a weird little glitch. Okay, well, I think we're back live. So I want to talk about today's topic. How do I find my creativity? Or for me, the statement was, I don't think I'm that creative. I don't think I'm that creative. There's a story that goes along with that statement. I'll tell you that in a little bit. So this whole idea, creativity, what's it all about? Why is it so important? And some of you out there may be making your living in this area of creativity, and you may think of yourself as not very something else. But for a lot of people on the planet, creativity is a little bit of a daunting proposition. And creativity is critically important to each of us. And the reason is around wholeness. It's around wholeness. So let's talk about this creativity for a minute, and then I'll give you some tips for how to access and express the creativity that is already a part of you. So creativity is simply a form of self-expression. Like even just speaking, the clothes we wear, the way we walk, all of that is a form of self-expression. So we communicate with more than just our mouths. We communicate with our eyes. We have the communication. This big, giant earth suit is a body, is a form of our creative expression. It's a way for us to share that which is inside of us with the world. Our creativity, our creative expression. Tilt my camera down. Hi. So creative expression is a part of who you've always been. It's a part of who you are. And you may not remember it, but I bet when you were a little tyke, you did some creative things. When I was a little tyke, the creative things that we did at school came home with us to give to our parents. Our little uh, works of art, our little clay projects, our little cups that we made, and the little stuff that we did came home. And for a time, if it was able to, it got stuck on the refrigerator with a refrigerator magnet, or it got sat out on the counter for everyone to see. And after a time, as I got older, those things started coming back to me, and I hit an age where my mom kind of just presented me with all the stuff. It was kind of fun to go look through the little Mother's Day cards I made when I was 2 years old, the little poems I tried to write, like practicing my handwriting, which is funny because I had to practice my handwriting when I was in rehab after the brain hemorrhage. And it was just like being in first grade in kindergarten. It was pretty wild. And so this creative part of us was kind of spurred. And then for many of us, it took a back seat. And what did it take a back seat to? Do you know? It took a back seat to your left brain logic. Logic. But our creative self-expression allows ourselves to have a conversation with maybe our interests and desires, that part of us that is maybe not so out there and is a little more quiet and a lot more below the surface. Our creative self-expression allows us to even understand ourselves better. Like, what is it that excites us? What energizes us? What do we like? Might help us answer questions around who we really are. What are we doing here? What would really jazz us up and have us feeling like our cup is overflowing? Your creative self-expression can be the key to unlock your joy and delight in your life, in your engagement with your life. Your joy and your creative expression can be the means to unlock your joy and delight in your engagement with your life. Think about that. We're engaging with our lives every minute. In some ways, in a very high vibration engagement, in other ways, very low vibration engagement. And your creative expression can make sure that you stay in a high vibration. We'll talk about that in a second. But creativity is a process for building something new that uses your imagination, your vision, and yes, depending on what it is you're creating, some logic, some left brain understanding and knowledge, put together with some free-flowing newness, boundary testing creativity. Creativity is so important that companies invest all kinds of money and effort and wisdom, bring in special people designed, especially when you're working in a company whose core competence is innovation. In those environments, creativity is the cash. It is the currency of what is supposed to bring that endeavor to fruition. Like, it is all fueled by the ability to put creative energy. Anywhere you've gone where you've heard the words, let's brainstorm this. Now, a lot of places we don't do brainstorming right because we shut down the craziest, weirdest, out of control, out of bounds ideas before we even let them have breath. But brainstorming is really about allowing creative energy to run a little wild before we hamper it or dampen it with that logic and that experience that sometimes shuts down ideas before they get a chance to breathe and evolve. Creativity supports your ability to solve problems. It supports your ability to collaborate Anytime, and just think about anytime you've been with a difficult person, you've had to be somewhat creative to figure out, especially if that difficult person is of higher stature than you, whether they're your boss or your parents or the captain of your team, or any environment where you actually report to somebody who you might consider difficult for whatever reason. Creativity, your ability to creatively engage with that person, can make the difference between you having a successful endeavor or a less successful endeavor. Creativity is this juxtaposition of curiosity, like, what if, coming together with logic, this kind of straight line, linear thinking way of going about it. Exploration, boundary testing, all of this contributes to our full self-actualization. And this is where creativity is so important, to being able to self-actualize, meaning to be able to feel and know the fullness, the full power of you yourself as your individual self, as your own self without anyone else's input in a moment. Interesting. So being able to embrace and express your creativity is critical to you living as an integrated whole being. Integrated whole being. The integration is the left brain and the right brain coming together. Communicating across the hemispheres of the brain creates a more whole expression of the power of the brain. Integration of the spiritual self coming together with the human self. Right there is some creativity. So the whole idea is to be whole, to express from your wholeness. And why is that so difficult? Depending upon your life experiences, you may question whether you're creative at all. I used to always question it. I used to never consider myself creative. I used to always think I was logical and quantitative and analytical. Those were my superpowers, and they are still today to some extent. Those were my superpowers. And I didn't give myself credit. In fact, I'll tell you a story about a job interview. I was interviewing for, I don't even remember the job at this point, but this was a very poignant moment in my journey to my self-actualization, was when I was asked this question. So tell me about a time when you used creativity to solve a problem. I'm not sure that is exactly the question, but you get I'm just doing it for you to understand. A question came up around talking about my creativity. And I was stumped, y'all. I was stumped. Like, imagine trying to talk about yourself and a question as simple as tell us about your creativity, like, had me speechless. I never thought of myself that way. And I think when I finally gained back the ability to do more than stumble and fumble along, I think I said something like, I don't really think of and I said this with a straight face, a very serious countenance. I don't really think of myself as a creative person. I'm highly analytical, quantitative, and logical. Interesting, especially in a field called marketing. Especially in a field called marketing, where creativity meets the science, and that's the artistry of marketing. Rooted in science, beautified by that artistry. And I'm a person who actually described herself as not having a creative essence at all. Needless to say, I didn't get that job. And I really do truly and 100% in my heart believe it was the answer that I gave to that question. So this is important. It's an important aspect. And for those of you who, like me, were thinking, I'm not creative, here's what I will suggest. There's a part of us that has always got this creative power. And the way I'd like to encourage you to think about it is, it's not a do I have it or do I not? It's have I cultivated it, Or is it a latent skill that I have not used? I have not grown. I have not trained myself in leveraging. A muscle, just like a muscle that atrophies over time because it's not being used. You could think of your creativity potentially as a latent skill. So the dictionary.com definition of latent is it's present but not visible, apparent, or actualized. There's that word, actualized. So inside self-actualization is being able to like turn on, engage, and express from your latent skill sets. Dictionary.com also says existing as potential. So self-mastery, it's all about reaching your highest potential, living a high vibe life, fueling your high vibration experience and expression in your life is all about getting to the highest potential of you are, getting to the highest potential that you are. So maybe it's not that you don't have it, because obviously I do have it. I'll show you some aspects of it. It was just a skill, an ability that I had inhibited myself from actually expressing. And there can be lots of reasons. For me, it was, it brought up vulnerability, and I was into being strong. You know, I was raised in the energy of be a strong person. I was also afraid of the judgment that might come. Others will judge whatever I do as not good enough. I felt really comfortable in my left brain logic. And in my creativity, others may judge me as not good enough. Now, where might I have gotten that from? And this is not about blame or shame, but I'm going to shout out my Grammy-nominated, incredibly expressive, creative older brother, Michael, shouting out Biko, who my whole life played multiple instruments, was really good. Every time we went to my grandmother's house, she had an old, I think it was a Steinway upright. He played that piano all day, every day we were there. He is known for his guitar prowess. He is a guitarist, a lead guitarist. He teaches guitar. He also teaches voice, or has taught. I don't think he's doing that right now. And he was a phenomenal actor. And he could also draw. And he made puppets. And he was a puppeteer. I mean, he was the expression of creativity everywhere you turned. And so I can feel myself measuring myself by the yardstick that was him, and finding myself not as good, and therefore not wanting to show up as less than. And that's kind of sad, because I could have showed up as, let's play together more in these creative spots and let's see how you can teach me. But that's a story for another day. So in this idea of expression, creativity, we might compare ourselves to others and see that we might not measure up according to us, and that we don't see ourselves as good enough. We'll never be a concert pianist, so why learn how to play the piano? That's so sad. A Maya Angelou quote that I love: you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And so let's help you unlock some. And by the way, I'm going to take a minute and show you some of my creativity. So over my right shoulder, you see this this sunshine picture. She's got eyelashes, of course, because she's feminine, and her eyes are closed, and she has a facial expression of delight. And that was one of the creative things that I did, and I'll show you what it was. Here's another one. This is a flower arrangement. I do flower arranging, and I never took a course. I never sat down and said, I think I want to learn how to do the art of flower arranging. Nope. I just did it. And I got to turn on my love for beautiful things and bring them to life. I've given some away. I do swags. I do big arrangements. I do wreaths on front doors. If you've seen me outside and you see a wreath in my background, I made that. And this is all creativity that I thought I didn't have. I'm not a creative person. I'm logical and analytical. Not true. So here are some tips. You want to tap in and tune in and turn on your creative self? Here are my tips. And this is critical, again, to your wholeness, to your expression of yourself in any given moment. And I guarantee you, when you let your creative juices flow, your creative problem solving will take you through any difficult, apparently logical, analytical situation. And it's never an either or, and always a both and. How do I activate my whole self? High vibration living needs your whole self to engage. And so that's why this is so important. So here's some steps. I say Nike has it right with the whole just do it slogan. It's a just do it scenario. Whatever you can do to tap in, to turn on, to even say, is this a creative part of me? Maybe not. You might want to do dance. You might want to do poetry writing. You might want to do spoken word. Who knows? You could just try it. So that's the just do it. Do anything, anyway, anyhow, to just turn on a little bit. A little bit. So when I even say turn on a little bit, like I've taken drawing and painting classes. I took a legendary trip to France with a company called Edu Vacations. I hope they're still in business because they do some really awesome work. And I went to France to do watercolor painting. And that was a long time ago. I mean, we're talking 90s. And not knowing that needing to draw was a kind of a good foundation for watercolor. But I went to just do some creativity in the south of France, eating French food. I was taking French at the time and I wanted to become more fluent, so learn French. By the way, speaking a foreign language can be a part of activating your right brain creativity at the same time as activating your left brain logic. Puzzling, building, get a Lego set and see what you're inspired to do. So one of the things, this anyway, anyhow, is it doesn't have to necessarily be you painting and drawing. So here's a creative exercise that I'm activating right now. It's a book that has to do, it's a private journal that has to do with something major going on in my life. And I'm doing the journal as a part of opening myself up to everything that could go into this major project. Talk about that some other time. But this is my little journal. Shout out to my beautiful friend and creative artist and art therapist and art coach, Dr. Minette Riordan up in Santa Barbara, who made this book for me. It was blank when she gave it to me. And the cool thing, I've got little stuff stored in it that I want to put in the book. The cool thing about my time with Minette was she freed me up to believe that finding pictures, painting them, so this I painted on top of a picture that was already there. This one I found in a little, one of those little free flyers that you might find outside a store. And then I added color to it and I added a hummingbird. And I was like, and that's creative. It doesn't, I don't have to sit down, see it in my mind's eye and draw it beautifully. My form of creativity is layering work on top of work and calling that enough. Calling that enough. And so that can be yours as well. It could be an expression that looks like that. Make a commitment. So step number 2, make a commitment that you're just doing it for you. It's not for anyone else. From you, to you, for you, by you. The reason is when we start to look at other people's assessment of our work, it starts to bring us back into the shadow self, afraid to show it, afraid to express ourselves, for fear that someone else is going to deem it not good enough, and we might buy into their not good enough judgment. So just do it for you. And number 3, let yourself run completely wild, like run wild. And as a part of opening myself up to my creative side, my non-logical side, one of my running wild experiences was a literal running wild experiences. One of my spiritual teachers at the time said, you know, you're living in some boundaries that you are self-creating. So one of the ways that you can like move beyond those boundaries and release some of the old stuff that's holding you back, old fear, old anger, old guilt, old shame, old blame, old punishment, the releasing of that. She gave me an assignment to go to the beach, which is one of my favorite places to be, go to the beach before sunrise and let loose. Run up and down the beach, screaming, yelling, throw rocks in the water, talk to the ocean, get wet, don't get wet, roll in the sand, just let myself go. And I did it. I took a friend with me for safety because I was afraid. And not afraid of, you know, the environment, just afraid of being there by myself. You know, unleashing myself was like, I don't know what's that going to look like. And so I had my best friend with me, and she sat in the car, so I didn't feel like I was being watched, so to speak. And I did the best job I could with letting myself go, which was a start. We'll call it that. It was a start. It was not everything, but it was a start. And so this let yourself run wild. If you have to do that literally to give yourself a start, do it. Find a way to kind of go big and throw off anything, any form of chain that is holding you down and keeping your creativity inside you instead of outside you being expressed. You may try some coursework, so something that's prescriptive. So another thing that I did as a part of my acting career is I took improv classes. And then I became a professional improv comedian, but I took improv classes because I didn't feel like my acting was benefiting from creativity. It was benefiting from my ability to analyze the script and come up with the backstory for the character. But the creative expression was not in my body. It wasn't coming out when I was actually playing the part. I wasn't really allowing myself to run wild. So I took improv. I took laughter yoga. You may not have to go, oh, I want to paint and just paint. You may just have to explore around what would allow you to get out of where you always hang out and get into a place that you don't know what's going to happen when you get there. Like that. Check that out. Again, I'm going to say this again because it's so important that it bears repeating. And that is, you're doing this for you. It's nobody else's feedback matters. Don't ask people. Just do it. In some of these cases, you'll get feedback because your art teacher may tell you something and your improv coach is going to give you some feedback on how to take your game to the next level. That's different than saying, so how'd I do? So what about this? So what do you think about this? No, it's for you. It's for you to see what's possible. So this painting back here, again, this was an assignment, and it wasn't at a creative class. It was at a spiritual transformation course I did long before I wrote the book. And the assignment was from the instructor, the facilitator, and we were given words and phrases and blank pieces of paper and a lot of things to draw and paint with. And a blank piece of paper staring back at me is one of the scariest things in the world. I'm a really great editor, and sometimes getting those first words down is like, can't do it. So that blank piece of paper started with the statement that's on it. You can't see it, but it says, the state of no doubt. That was one of the things we were asked to draw. And interestingly, I use this creative activity in some of my workshops now. State of no doubt. So I painted it. But the catalyst was more logical than just starting with my creativity, but it came out. Interestingly enough, the exercise was a part of getting to wholeness, integrating the right and left brain. If at some point you don't appreciate it, change it. Like, why did I bring this vase up this morning? Oh, by the way, the vase was something that I had left over from someone giving me flowers. The stones and everything else came from the dollar store. So it doesn't have to cost you a fortune. Dollar store. So this whole thing probably, I'm going to call it $10. So even on a budget, you can express. And if you don't like it, change it. So I go buy these. I've got several flower arrangements downstairs, and I told you about the wreath. I just go by and I'm like, oh, I don't like the way that's, oh no, this one needs to bend a little more this way or a little more that way. I'm constantly playing with them to plus up the expression as it is today. So the same thing's true of you. Whatever you don't appreciate only for yourself, change it. And then one last piece I would suggest is you could journal about your journey into your creativity. And the journaling would help you understand your relationship with your creative essential nature. It's a part of your essential nature. We all have it. So as you see, wow, flowers, I like it. Other things I don't like. Or, geez, I was doing this statement, state of no doubt, and I realized I doubt a lot. Like, I don't even know where that statement would really come to play in my life, because I doubt everything. I doubt me. I doubt the weatherman. I doubt this. I doubt that. I doubt everything. And that gives you, in this quest for high vibe living, that gives you some fertile ground for you to go after for how you transform you in your life to make your life exquisite and one that you love living. So those are my tips on where's my creativity and how do I express it. I'll leave you with this last quote. You know that if you follow me, you know that I love Albert Einstein. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. Thank you, Dr. Einstein. That's this week's Hump Day Happy Chat. Many blessings. I always close with the Karanaya Metta Sutra, the Metta Prayer, the prayer of loving kindness from the Buddha. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings awaken to the light of their true nature, and creativity is a part of your true nature. May you awaken to the light of your creativity that wants to be expressed. And may all beings be free to be the fullness, the fully self-actualized being that you are. Yabba, dabba, do. I say hallelujah, amen, ashe, aho. Thank you very much. Many blessings. See you next time on the Hump Day Happy Chat. Bye now.